So I applied in April, heard back from them in September. They told me that I was nominated the same year, September. And then it was up to the next year in May that I got placement for school. Because after getting nominated, you need to do some exams you need to do, like TOEFL. You need to do. I also did Duolingo. So they do this so that when they're applying for schools for you, like that sort of helps them during the application process. And then in July the next year is when I got the award officially, because there is being nominated, applying for schools, and then if when you get a school, successfully get a school, is when they will like formally have you, like give you the award. So that I was formally given the award in July, and then I had to resign in August. Then September I started my school.
Okay, so you are nominated. When you are nominated, then the school, you do those exams like TOEFL and GRE, and then Fulbright will help you apply for admission. Okay, to a school that you choose.
So initially, you're given that option. Like you provide, I think, four schools.
Okay.
And then depending on how your GRE is, then they'll apply to that. And if your GRE or test scores, or even sometimes, I think it depends on the relationship that they have with the school. So if they have a good relationship with the school, which is willing to also give you a scholarship, meaning that they are able to use the money that they would have spent on you to give to another student, then they will obviously go to the one that gives more support. So after the test, then you get the placement. So for my case, I had picked like Ivy League schools and all that, but I wasn't able to get those ones. Maybe it was through my GRE, maybe it was because of the support that the schools were not able to provide, or were able. I honestly don't know. But I was given another list of schools to kind of select and like order in terms of which ones I wanted the most. And from there, I was able to get the University of Michigan, Dearborn. The rest was. Let me start with the people who have been, who have applied and have been nominated, right?
Yes.
So the first thing is so September, I learned that I was nominated, and then I did an interview with the embassy. So the interview had a woman and a man, and it was a very short interview, I think 15-20 minutes. So it was a really nice experience. I was so anxious when I came into the call, but they were mostly focused on knowing who I am. They just wanted to know who I was, why I wanted to get the scholarship, what I would do once I got the scholarship, and then after the scholarship is also another big deal. They want you to know, after you're done with the scholarship, what are your plans? So for me, I do want to go back home. Like, I want to go back home, and I want to share what I've learned I don't know how that will be yet, but I want to share my experience and my knowledge with the young developers who are keen on getting into the software development space. I want to do that, and I also want to do some community work and focus on people with disabilities. And I want to incorporate software in helping them solve some of their issues by giving transparency and, community in the whole process. That the whole story of the foundation came from, when they asked me, what are you going to do after? Like, that's what I want to do. Yeah. Like, I want to come back home and help my community and help my society in using the skills that I'll have gotten from here. So if I was to tell anyone who's been nominated, please be keen on that. That's a very, very big tip, because you see, they're not bringing you here to just stay in America, and they want to empower one person who can be able to empower a whole community. Like to them, they're investing in you because they know investing in you is like investing in 100, 1,000 people, because they know that you're going to come back and share what you know. Yes. So the interview process was amazing. They were really nice people, and I had a good time because it was just me talking about myself, me sharing my goals, my dreams and aspirations, and telling them how Fulbright would be an integral part in making that dream a reality. And I guess they liked it enough that they, picked me for the next step.
Yeah. So how many interviews do you
Just one.
Only that one?
That one.
Okay. Wow. But I'm sure by the time they are nominating you, how many people are nominated, do you know?
I have no idea.
No, how many people are selected? Do you know how big is it's a worldwide thing, right?
It is.
You can also just talk about what you know,
yes,
with Kenyan experience. How many people end up getting it every year?
So this year, on the year that I applied in 2023, 4 of us got selected.
4?
Most of the time, it's usually 3.
That is okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So I imagine by the time you are being nominated, I imagine maybe they just nominate a few people.
Yes, they nominate a few.
That is crazy. Wow, 3 people? Yeah.
Just 3 people
or 4. I know
4.
many people apply.
Oh, many people do apply. Yeah. A lot of them. And I will always say this, always be honest. Never lie about an experience or try to pad, or I don't know. Because they also do background checks to verify, that what you've said is true and all that. So just always be honest. Be honest about your experience, be honest about your goals, and you might be shocked that you're actually the person that they're looking to support. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, all right. Then so now after nomination you do the interview. Do they tell you almost immediately? I was told so I did the interview on the 22nd of September, and by the 26th I was told that I was nominated for Fulbright. Okay. And then that's when they shared resources on preparing for these different tests. Yeah. And that's when I started. Also, touch on preparing for the. I actually did also. I did English test. I didn't do TOEFL. I did IELTS. And I remember, just if you can just offer any tips for guys who will be nominated and they need to do these exams. Yes. How did you prepare? Because they're also expensive. Were you paying out of your pocket, or do they cover? That's a good question. So Fulbright covered everything. Okay. They gave us vouchers to use when setting the exam date or registering for the exam, and that covered the fee for the exam. So okay. I'm really grateful. Like, the amazing thing about Fulbright is that, like, they actually do support you. So if you're scared that, you don't have any money, you feel like you won't be able to afford the process, like going through the process, please don't. Because they are just looking for the right person, and everything else is going to be taken care of. So they took care of the test costs. The thing is, if you want to buy more material to prepare, you can. Some of them are expensive. But for me, I always believe in it doesn't need to be expensive to be good. Like, I use a lot of free materials. I used a lot of free materials. Thank you for mentioning that, because I think I'll write another article just to share some of the links that we use. Exactly. Yeah. For me, it was a bit challenging because I was still working. So I was only I had time to prepare after work or early in the morning, and also over the weekend. Like, those were my times when I had enough time to prepare. Mm-hmm. But there are free resources out there to help you prepare. I can't think of some of them from the top of my head, but Google is your friend. Like, it shouldn't, how do I put this? Before even asking for someone to help you, I always ask someone, have you Googled it? Because I always find that there are free resources. I'm open to sharing some of the ones that I used, but I could say this: don't let that hold you back. Like, you can easily Google and find free resources. If you're willing to pay, that's okay, because some of them offer one-on-one kind of preparation.
and that is obviously more expensive, but I'd say this, you don't have to pay.
Okay.
So for the ones who are willing to do extra work just to prepare, you don't have to pay.
Some things that you wish you had been told, or some things that you would do differently if you were to go back and restart the process again.
That's true.
Yes. How has it been? Yes.
So first things first, I have never, like you mentioned, I had never been out of the country. This was my first international flight. I was so anxious the whole way. I was just scared of getting lost in a big airport, those things. First of all, initially I was scared of my luggage being oversized. I know it sounds like a small thing, but one thing I did was just measure my suitcase before I left to the airport, just to be on the safe side. But even though I did that, I was still told that it was above the... Anyway, have enough money at the airport to kind of pay for any extra weight, just in case, just to be on the safe side. So that's one thing, a tip I would give to people who've never flown outside of the country, because in as much as it sounds like a small thing, it's actually a big deal, considering when I was doing that, I almost missed my flight, and it was because I didn't have cash on me and my bank for some reason was offline, so I couldn't pay with my card. The thing that came through for me was that my family was close by, and they were able to give me like a card to use from a different bank. But you see, that's the thing, like always have like a backup plan, just to be on the safe side. So I went through Qatar and then to America, and the weather there was different. The airport was huge. If you've never been outside of the country before, like your main focus would be knowing where you're supposed to be, especially if you have a very short layover. I know you would want to experience a new space or a new place, but it's more important that you get to the gate that you are supposed to be at, especially if the layover is very short. Because mine was, I think, less than an hour, and I was like, yeah, this is a big airport, let me get to where I'm supposed to be. Anyway, the whole experience was really good and scary at some point because of turbulence and all that. I'm really not good at flying, but I was just telling myself, I'm excited, I'm not scared, I'm excited, I'm not scared. So once I got here, I was very fortunate to get someone from home who had gone through the Fulbright program to host me for a night. And then the next day, I came to where I was supposed to stay. So first tip I would tell people is book an Airbnb in advance. Like for me, I knew I was coming to Dearborn, so look for or book an Airbnb for at least a day or two, so that you don't have to move around with your luggage. It's a very big headache. And then there is this app called Zillow. It's a real estate app that has all the rental information about places and things like that. So I used that before I came. I even reached out to some of the property managers to the house that I was interested in. And the thing was, I needed to have an American number to apply. And therefore, they just told me, you have to wait until you're here to apply. But I know that you, like, I have put you under, like, I have you at the back of my mind. So when I got here, the first thing I did was to get a phone number and then attach that to my account and then reach out to those people that I had already reached out to. So I wasn't starting necessarily from scratch, because I already had identified a couple of places that I wanted that were close to school as well. And so when I came in, it was mostly formalizing that, like coming to actually see the place, see if it's what I like, and then knowing what to do next. Because here it's a different process. Like you have to apply, and then they do some checks and all that, and then before they give you the lease for you to sign. So considering you're an international student, first of all, you don't have a social security number, which is very important here. It might be a bit challenging, but the fact that I was a scholar, I had my terms of service or agreement that stipulated how much I'd be getting every month. I was able to use that as like backup documents to showcase that I can actually afford to pay rent every month. So I used that as well as my passport and other documents from the scholarship showing, I have been nominated for the award. Also my offer letter from the school to confirm that I'm actually going to be a student. And that allowed me to get a house in 2 days. I know 2 days sounds like a long time, considering Kenya, you'd come see a house and I'm like, yeah, right now, and you pay for it and you're good. But 2 days here is actually quite a short.
Yeah.